I'm here with Bryan Ruby, proud to be in baseball. Was at the ABCA convention this year for the first time, but current baseball player has been at spring training, but just said he's getting ready to go sing the national anthem here for the World Baseball Classic, but lives in Nashville in the music industry. So, Bryan, thanks for jumping on with me.
Thank you. How's it going?
Good. Just for people that don't know you, just kind of talk about your journey in baseball. You have a really unique path with what you've been able to do, but just talk about your journey in baseball.
Yeah, man. An indie ball guy. I'm 27, still playing. Played Division III ball in college at Vassar College up in upstate New York in Poughkeepsie. And played overseas, and it's been I don't know, I think 7, 8 different countries by now. Winter ball, summer ball, same thing. Repeat. Played in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Guatemala Winter League, Chile, Peru. I played in the UK a little bit this past summer. Coached a team in Cuba with my dad. Coached a youth team one winter, um, and an indie ball on the West Coast, up in Oregon, and you know, kind of just a journeyman guy, but still kicking, and glad to be here.
What has driven you to keep going? 27, still playing. What's driving you to keep going?
Yeah, I just love playing. Like, there really is no feeling like stepping onto the ball field. And it was kind of crazy. Like the day that I graduated from college, like all my teammates were really depressed because they realized, well, it was really after our last game, after we got eliminated, um, senior year. And I think like I just had this drive to just do whatever it takes to keep going. Like I have taken overnight buses, this is the least glamorous thing ever. Like overnight buses down the coast of South America with no air conditioning, stuffed full of people with my baseball bag to go to a tryout, like and try to get a spot somewhere and have failed over and over and over again, but have just refused to quit. And, like in COVID, like I was the only American guy who played in the Guatemala Winter League. Like everybody else, the team was coached in Spanish. Like really crazy experience, sleeping on a mattress on the floor in a little concrete house with 3 concrete walls and a tin roof, and just like the least glamorous stuff. But I've just refused to quit and have kept getting better as a player. I'm way better than I was when I was a senior in college. Like most guys, they think, oh, if you don't develop by sophomore, junior year, oh, you're not going to become a pro. You're not going to get drafted or whatever, or ascend up the ranks. And for me, it's just like refusal to. One, it's a lot of work. Like I always work, always in the gym, always in the cage. Um, but two, it's just refusal to quit. And I'm always doing stuff to try to take care of my body better, ice baths, you know, um, went up to Mind Strong Academy in Minnesota to train with Harvey Martin a little bit. Have really dialed in strength and conditioning over the years and just honed my process, and each year get a little smarter, and I mean I just feel like I'm continuing to get better, and maybe it's not on a path towards the big leagues as a guy who's 27 and still in indie ball, but it's all right, man. Like I'm gonna get to lace them up every day,
How long have you been doing the ice bath?
A couple years.
So
Yeah, a
the
couple years.
protocol, how I know there's multiple different protocols, but what's the protocol that you're using for ice bath when you're
Yeah.
using it?
Well, ideally you do a mixture between like hot and cold. Like if you can get in a sauna if they have one, and get really really hot, get a full sweat, and for I don't know, 15 minutes or 20 minutes if you can, and then go straight into the cold and maybe back and forth a couple times if you can handle it. Like to just kind of shock the body. And I found that like I was in a sauna a few, well, not in a sauna, sorry, in the ice bath, um, a few weeks ago with just a bunch of like regular people, and they like couldn't get in, and I realized like I have been training this long enough that like I just stepped right in, and I feel like it's good for my immune system. The season is a grind, like, and the fact that I can, and it's good for my muscles and my body. Like, I'll get in the cold tub. I won't do heat after games like over the summer because it's just too hot already. But I'll get in a cold tub, like in the training room, just to kind of chill out a little bit after a long series, or even just put my lower body in so my hamstrings can and quads can just like, it feels good coming out of that. So even
It's a
though it's kind of
dopamine
like,
released thing too. Like that's when you look at the research, it does reset the
yeah,
dopamine in your bloodstream also.
yeah, for sure. And if it's almost like you get addicted to it. Like you want to feel that, like,
It works off the same receptors as addiction.
yeah,
Honestly, like when you look at it, it's all those same receptors in your brain where addiction happens in the same area. So it does make sense that it does make you feel better, and obviously
yeah,
it's a healthier option than turning to substances to get that
yeah.
type of feeling.
I also feel like it's kind of mental. Like if you just played a doubleheader and you're dog tired and you can hop in a freezing cold ice bath for 15 minutes or whatever, you can also take a bus down the coast of South America, get no sleep, and get up the next morning and turn it on.
Yeah.
Like you learn about your body and you learn how to persevere through things. Like and you can push. You learn when you need to push and when you what it's going to take to push in certain situations, and you can dial it in when you need to. And I think that like the biggest misconception that I was thinking about this last night, um, like in the shower, deep thoughts in the shower. I was, um, and for those of you who can't see right now, I'm getting ready to do a bunch of spring training stuff. So, still on the road right now. Um, but I was thinking about this, thinking about how, um, like in college, I thought that the pro guys that I looked up to, I thought, man, those guys are so good. They must feel so good every day. Like, and actually, it's the complete opposite. It's you're rarely at 100% because of the travel schedule and because of the amount of games played and everything, and different circumstances. It's being able to dial it in when you're not at 100% and figuring out what you can do to get your process as best as it possibly can be, so that you are as close to 100%. Maybe that's just 70%, or maybe 75% if you're lucky, but it's not 25%. So that was a big, I don't know, I was thinking about that last night, like as we were getting ready for spring training stuff here.
They're the best in the world mentally too. Like
Yeah,
physically, obviously they have some God given talents and abilities that were God given out of the womb. Eyes work better, cognitively work better, but they're the best at working through when they don't feel good and still going out and competing and performing at the best of their
yeah.
ability.
Yeah, I feel like me as a guy who played Division III college ball, like I've never been the best physically, but I feel like I've been able to outperform guys who are far superior than me physically, just because I can gut it out mentally,
Yes.
and I won't let that get in the way. And I found that actually this might be a good segue into the the other stuff. Um, that was a huge barrier mentally.
And you
Yeah.
did play for your dad in high school.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, I used to. My dad was a high school baseball coach, FCS High School, Pennsylvania, ABCA member. He used to take me when I was a kid to conventions. So when I brought my charity there this year, it was not my first time. I kind of knew the drill. I would tag along, and it's if you're a kid and you like baseball, it's like being in heaven. Like you go to all the booths, trying out all the things. Come home with a couple pairs of batting gloves and like some gear. It's a good good place to be. So yeah,
And then Vassar, you and I talked about this on the pre-call. You decided to come out at Vassar. What prompted that for you? Because I'm not sure when you figured out you're gay, and then how long you held on to that before you let anybody
Yeah.
know.
I knew in I knew I was different than my teammates like in high school. Couldn't quite pinpoint it. I didn't really want to go down that path. I think just as a kid, I dreamed about, like we all do, about being a Major League Baseball player. Like, and you just look around and you can't really see, at least, well, you can't now still, but you definitely couldn't when I was, a decade and a half ago when I was a kid, and you look around and they say if you can see, you can be it. What happens when you can't see other people like yourself who are playing Major League Baseball? You know, you don't have a hero. Um, my heroes back home in Pennsylvania are Chase Utley, Jim Thome. I wore number 25 in college because of Thome, and those guys. I would go to Phillies baseball camp like as a kid, and they gave us one day. They gave us a tour of Citizens Bank Park. We got to see the clubhouse and try on one of their jerseys, and it was like those were my one of some of the best memories of my childhood. But um, that's amazing to kind of set yourself up on a path to pursue baseball. But on a personal level, like when you realize you're different than your teammates, it's really isolating. I definitely felt as a kid growing up in the locker room that I was all alone and I didn't know what to do about it. That was really scary for me at the time. I wanted to keep playing baseball, and I thought that, well, shoot, if I tell anybody about this, then I'm never going to be able to play baseball again. My teammates are not going to like me. Um, it's that was my probably biggest fear is was you know I was I guess it's one thing sort of learning to love who you are, and then that's a process, and a completely other thing to be able to stay in your sport. And so, but I came out to my teammates in college. The guys were cool. I was actually about to be named captain as a junior, and I thought, man, if they know, they're not going to want me as their captain. They're not going to want me to represent them. So I I told my college baseball coach, which is something that I thought I would never ever do. And it was so awkward for me to tell him because I thought this is going to be the end of my time playing baseball, but I just felt like I was stuck and because
Did
if
you
I had
set that
got,
up with him in a meeting? Just be like, "Hey, coach, I need to come talk to you."
yeah, I told him I texted him because we were getting ready. They were getting ready to announce the captain stuff, and I texted him. He's like, "All right, just." I said, "Coach, can I talk to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, just come to our office." And it's like I really don't want to have this whole conversation like in the whole coach's office with all the staff there and everything. Like it was already like so. I said, "Hey, can you just meet me at the burger place that was like next to the campus, which is where we would go. Everybody would go for lunch anyway." So we met over there, and I told him, and I was like, "Coach, like, I want you to know this because I don't want you guys to name me captain and then be upset with this and but I'm gay and if that's a problem then you know I will I don't need to be captain." And he's like, "Man, we couldn't care less. You're the right guy for the job. You have my full support, whatever you need."
Now,
So
and
that
now at
was
that point where you're like, "Well, I should have told him earlier."
no, well, I don't know if I was ready to really tell him, and I also don't feel like I didn't feel like I needed to.
Yeah.
Like it's my personal life, but um, that was a big moment for sure. And I had already told my family and my friends and stuff, and um, so, but that was kind of the leadership position, though. That was the sort of the fork in the road that kind of required that I felt. Um, and so
Talk about your
I,
on-field performance and what happened after that for
oh
you.
man, I hit the year before I hit, I don't know, 250, slightly less. Lost my starting spot as a redshirt sophomore to a freshman. So I'm starting at third base and lost my spot. That sucked. And then that all that happened, and it was like a huge weight off of my chest. And the following year, I hit over 350 all conference. Started to for the first time talk about um, potentially playing after college, whether that was I was thinking draft at the time, but indie ball, whatever. But just opened up a whole new door of possibilities. That summer, played in the Hamptons League summer ball against a bunch of D1 guys at the time. Um, for the Sag Harbor Whalers, hit over 350 there. All star team, got to play in front of scouts in the All Star game, and it just kept improving. Got back to, I mean, it all started from that moment. Really, it was a huge weight off my chest. Got back to fall ball in college and hit 450 like in our shortened fall season, and which was like 100 points better batting average wise than anybody else. Just because I was rolling and started to um, think about baseball beyond college as a possibility. But it all came from getting acceptance. I think, this is a podcast. I do all kinds of interviews. It was crazy after coming out. But
And how can coaches address this? This is a tough topic. We have some hot button topics going on right now, and this is one of them. You
yeah,
look at some of the state laws that are going into play right now, like that there's a lot of things going on in America. These are tough topics, but when you look at the census numbers, I looked them up. We have 333 million Americans, but 5.6 of those Americans identify as LGBTQ.
right.
And so there is a likely possibility that a coach has someone on their team. Me
Yeah,
personally, at WIU, we had a player come out after he had got done playing for us, and I really wish he would have come to me during his playing career because I think it
yeah,
would have helped him. Like
yeah,
immediately after he was done playing, he
yeah,
came out where I felt like if he would have come and talked to me about that while he was playing for us, I think
yeah,
it may have went a little bit better for him in
yeah,
college with his playing.
for sure. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is like if you look in the news at any given moment, it's a hot button topic. Like, I guess what I try to say, and this is an interview specifically for like your audience of baseball coaches and baseball people. So, to kind of narrow it to that audience, like to me, and people ask me about this because I'm like, I'm the guy with the charity that supports LGBT youth who want to play baseball. Like nowadays, more and more of the younger population is identifying as LGBT. So, what is that? Like lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. There's all these acronyms. LGBTQ plus. I mean, it keeps going. But I guess for baseball specifically, we're talking more about the G and the B kind of in the acronym, and we all get grouped together in this kind of grouping. But we
Chris
got to be
Rock talked about it on his stand-up. I don't know if you
yeah,
watched Chris Rock. He talked about it. He was like, even though it's a group, like they are all
all these
individuals.
different
They're all different. Even though it's lumped
yeah.
in as a group, I think it's easier for Americans as a whole to just lump it into one group, even though they're very separate as far as groups themselves.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like in baseball, they say like 20% of the youngest generation right now, so the generation who's in I don't know high school, college, identifies as in that group. So statistically speaking, I mean, if you have a 40-man roster
Yes.
or I don't know 37 or whatever you got, that's probably like three or four guys, and I saw it firsthand when I kind of came out and I started to get messages from these guys and discovered like who they are. But there's a huge population in baseball that is in this group that I think is just not playing to their potential because they feel like they are going to lose their spot or they lose their job, or scholarship or something if their teammates find out. Kind of like I believed. I guess I'm the best. I'm a success story of somebody who received acceptance. You know, it was really the thing that I can say to this group specifically is it makes such a difference in a person's life. Like that moment that I told my coach, and my coach was like, "No worries, man. You're all good. Like just keep doing what you're doing." I was being the first one at practice every day, last one to leave, like, you know, helping the younger guys in the weight room, like, leading by example. Went to the NCAA leadership conference, like, when I was a junior, like doing all the things that a leader's supposed to do. And that was just one other thing about me. And I think when they realized that I was just kind of trying to, live my life on the field as best as I could, and then live my life off the field and not have to hide, like that was a huge moment of acceptance, and I played so much better. And I think that teammates, coaches usually, they don't know how to talk about this. It feels awkward. They don't want to say something that's wrong. And I think, you don't necessarily need to say too much. Just say, we're cool. Like, and just let that player know that it's all good. And that player, because I've been that player and I talk to many of these guys on a day-to-day basis, consistently have the same fears of losing their spot. Not everybody wants to feel like,
The shame piece is real.
yeah, yeah. Feel like there's something wrong with them. Feel like, we've grown up, we've all been indoctrinated into baseball culture from an early age. Like we want to be a part of the team, just like anybody else. And, they, that's huge. And, um, I guess,
You were able to come to the convention this year. You went into the diversity meeting, I think the Saturday morning meeting, and you sat
yeah,
through it. And then you said you were maybe not going to bring it up, and then you pulled the trigger at the end of it. But talk about how that is. I mean, because again, you're in a room with a diverse bunch, but it's still kind of a deal where it's like, okay, I don't know if I should say anything. I don't know if I should bring it up. Like,
yeah,
for me, that was fascinating. You sit through it. You maybe aren't going to bring it up, but then you bring it up at the end.
yeah, true. Yeah, and I have gone back and forth on this over the years. That I guess what happened at ABCA is still isn't is indicative of the whole last few years for me. I was out in college. I told the story like you heard about coming out to my coach and our head coach and the rest of our team, um, and received acceptance. But when I turned pro, I was told by not that coach, but another coach that I had and was training with, just to kind of get ready for pro ball. He knew about me, but he said, if people find this out, you're never going to get a spot ever. Like kiss your dreams goodbye. You might as well get a real job. And that sucked to hear. Like I have this, I'm so close to this dream of playing pro baseball. And, now after I've come out, after I'm already living my life, like now I have to go back in the closet. That sucked. And that's kind of how I operated my first few seasons. And finally in 2021, I was playing indie ball, and really the moment that kind of turned things around for me was I'd come off a good winter season, shortened winter season in 2020 in the Guatemala Winter League, hit 325, like, had some options in indie ball. And that's when the coach kind of said that comment. He said, if you ever post ever tell anybody or if you ever post anything sort of rainbow related on your Instagram, social media, you'll never get a spot. And so I was at Christmas for the first time at my partner Max's parents' house. His mom lives in Richmond, up in Virginia, and we drove over there for Christmas. And it was the first moment that I have ever had. We've been together 3.5 years at a significant other's parents' house, for a holiday. So like a big life moment. We took this great picture, me, him, and his mom under the Christmas tree. And I opened up Instagram to post it. And those words of that coach came into my mind. and I didn't post it. And that really sucked, and I felt like I couldn't be myself. And that ate at me for a long time afterwards. And I kind of decided in my head, it's like, man, I'm so close to another contract in any ball. If I get a spot, I'm going to come out publicly. Like at that point, all my friends knew and everything, but I had never posted anything about it, because of that same fear. And so I came out that season in the summer in 2021 in an article in USA Today, and it was a life changing moment. I mean, woke up the next day, had 6,000 notifications on my phone, all these messages from younger athletes. I was the only out pro baseball player at the time, who had publicly said, "Yeah, I'm gay, and I'm a ball player. I'm proud to be in baseball." And
Was that the moment then that you're like, okay, I need to start a nonprofit for this as well?
yeah, well, that was the moment where I realized how many kids, not just kids. I mean, I'm getting messages from pro
Adults.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, adults, retired players, coaches. I mean, everybody. Like people in the front office. You know, like it just people who sell tickets, people who sell cotton candy in the stands, like grounds crew, athletic trainers, like everybody. It transcends if you're LGBT, that's not something that's bound by geography or location. Everybody thinks, oh, well, you're either in New York or LA, but no, like I'm getting messages.
And
I
I
live in
grew up in the
Tennessee.
Midwest, and you and I talked about this on our pre-call. I got to stay in coaching because of a gay man. A gay man owned a bar in Evansville and gave me an opportunity to bartend,
Yeah,
let me travel with the team. I never missed anything, so I feel like I owe the community something too because I was
yeah,
able to. I have the career that I have right now because a gay man was able to hire me, allowed me to travel with the team. The bar I
yeah,
worked at was a straight bar, but he was gay. That's
yeah,
why I'm in the position I'm in right now. So I feel like I owe something back to the community as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess getting those messages, I realized, man, somebody kind of needs to form this community in baseball
Yeah.
because there are people out there and there are people who are like younger versions of myself who need help. And so that's our charity is we started as a website, since then, that was a year and a half ago. We now have our 501c3, and we're registered in the state of Tennessee. Um, you can look us up, proudtobeinbaseball.org, or on social media, Instagram, Facebook, at Proud to Be in Baseball, Twitter, at Proud Baseball, because there was too many letters. Um, but we formed that and, kind of been doing events and speaking and stuff like this to just kind of promote the idea that you can be proud of who you are and be a member of the LGBT community, and you can play baseball. Like those things are not, you don't have, it's not an either or. It's 2023. It's possible. And that's really the message. It's a positive message. Um, but to answer your question, I know I didn't really answer it. I kind of felt like I needed to tell that story because it's the last couple years have been exactly what happened at ABCA. That moment of, I don't know, should I say this like in this environment? I it kind of feels awkward. Like I was sort of listening and I was excited. It was probably the thing I was most excited for at ABCA. We had a booth on the convention floor. We were talking to lots of people. People were signing up for our email lists, which you can do on our website, and um, learning about our charity. And we were really the only LGBT, only rainbow themed booth that I could see there. And I walked around a couple times, just looking just to see. But the diversity presentation was the thing I was most excited for, and because I thought maybe this is where we'll hear something, and so I sat through. It was back-to-back presentations or panels, and I guess after about 4 hours, hadn't heard the words LGBT mentioned once. And if it's going to be mentioned, like this is a diversity presentation, so this is probably the place to. And I was like, man, should I say something like what? And I was kind of making eye contact with Carrick, Carrick Jackson, coach of Memphis, and who was kind of running everything. And my hand was like up and down and up, and I think he was like looking at me weird because he couldn't really understand what was going on. And I was just kind of having this internal battle whether I should raise my hand, but I thought, man, I'm just going to go for it. And I said, and there were people there from Major League Baseball and the NCAA, and I said, I'm not trying to accuse here. I just want to kind of wondering, does anybody know of any programs that are in place to kind of help LGBT athletes in baseball, or really anything that's being done, besides just having a promotional pride night at major league stadiums? And it was crickets. I mean, even the people from Major League Baseball, they said, you know, and then basically after that, I said, well, if you're interested, if you kind of want to help, sort of not kick this door down, come talk to me after the session's over. So I had a bunch of people coming up, talk to me, get a stack of business cards, which has really made the whole conference worth it. Because we paid for a booth there, and came out of our charity budget, and we don't raise a lot of money, so I was really a little nervous about that side of it. But
and being in
really
Nashville in the music industry too, you're right there. So obviously it was a little easier than you having to travel somewhere else because you were in Nashville.
yeah, for sure. We're based in Nashville, and my off season job is in the music industry. So, out of all years, that was is a good year to be at ABCA because it's right on our home turf, at Opryland. But I think really it made, after the fact, after I asked the question and the people came up to me, it made it worth it, and it made me realize this is exactly why our charity needs to exist, because we are the people who are doing this, and we can take a leadership position in this field in baseball. We are the experts on this topic, you know. And
And I was
like
going
I
to
was
ask
talking,
you, I mean, Billy Bean is about the only one that I knew, but then you brought up Glenn Burke, and then you sent me the book. Appreciate it.
yeah, you got
I
the
haven't
book.
dove into it yet. It's in my. I'm gonna get into it, but because I didn't know Glenn Burke, I didn't know his story. But you and I
Yeah,
had talked about Billy Bean on the pre-call, and then you brought up Glenn Burke, so I didn't know. But you said Billy Bean and Glenn Burke have been kind of advocates for you doing this, correct?
yeah. Glenn Burke was a player who played for the Dodgers and the A's back in the '70s, early '80s, who came out as gay after he retired. He actually passed away in the '90s. So he was the first major league player to come out after retirement. Billy Bean was the second. I think he came out in right about 2000. And he's still alive. He currently works for the commissioner's office. He's a special assistant, I think, to the commissioner, and he does a lot of the diversity related projects for MLB. But one thing, Billy's a hero and a mentor and a friend of mine, and he's kind of doing things on a bigger level, like anytime there's an MLB Pride Night, good chance he's there. But I guess when I asked that question at the convention, I was more talking about on the grassroots level, because if you think about like who needs our charity the most, it's that collection of it's little me, who I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, as a kid in high school and in college, kind of struggling. And those are groups that Major League Baseball can't really work with, because they're too big and they're focused on bigger stuff. But that's exactly why our charity exists. And so, I mean, we will work with Major League Baseball on different events. Like last year, I took 17 flights during Pride Month alone, going to different stadiums, giving speeches, talking to different groups, kind of bringing our charity to different places. But this year is going to be even more, which is crazy because we're already booked out for June. Um, but and actually, where I am right now, we're doing an event with the Baltimore Orioles during spring training. So, and I'm in Southwest Florida right now, but in going to Sarasota this weekend. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to have been so scared as a kid and felt like, man, I'm never going to be able to play baseball again, and to have come out and continue playing. But more importantly, I think now just to be kind of an advocate for the LGBT community in baseball, and to be working with teams and coaches and players, and kind of to try to make the path a little bit easier for the next people that come along.
And you and I talked a little bit about maybe some future projects for what you guys are going to do as well. Because, I mean, you and I talked about a podcast. We talked about multiple things that maybe you can
Yeah.
continue to get the message out for Proud to Be in
Yeah.
Baseball.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's so much opportunity for future stuff. I think we've really just like dipped our toe in, and it's like really the deep end of the pool. Like, I think times are changing. I think that most of the coaches that I've talked to have been somewhat open to learning about this stuff. If they kind of understand that this is something that can help three or four of their players every year to be the
Still going to
best.
boil down to on-field success. Like, and
Yeah.
that, as any coach, you're trying to help your players in any way find success on the field. And if this is something that's going to allow for success on the field, you're going to get buy-in from coaches on it.
Totally. And what I tell coaches, and front office, I was speaking in front of the whole New York Mets leadership group, Sandy Alderson and all of their whole front office last summer. And that's a group that spends a lot of money, as we know, with their owner. Um, my on-field performance improved so much when I was able to receive acceptance from teammates. Not only did I feel better at the plate and in the field, but statistically speaking, my batting average jumped up over 100 points in college. I went from somebody who lost his starting spot to a freshman, to leading the team talking about playing pro baseball. Huge. I went, and in the pros in indie ball, I went from somebody who was hitting, before I kind of came out to my team. Um, that whole thing happened at Christmas. Got a spot in indie ball and started the season, and I was hitting maybe 220, 230 at the time, and I started to wear rainbow shoelaces in my cleats during Pride Month in June in 2021, and that's kind of how I came out to some of my teammates. And from that moment, I kept steadily improving and finished the season hitting 335 in indie ball at our level. So I really statistically improved. I was talking to another player. There's been 5 or 6 guys who have come out across the pro and college ranks since I came out. One of the guys, Solomon Bates, he was in Double-A for the Giants, right-handed pitcher, throws hard, reliever, kind of a future. I'm just going to put this out in the ether. Future MLB closer. If he keeps progressing, he's good. Throws hard. Good off-speed pitches too. I was talking to him. Solomon came out last season, towards the end of last season, and he was telling me on the phone a couple of days ago about how he feels better. Like, so this is not just a thing that is isolated to me. It's a message that I hear from lots of guys who have come out and have been accepted by their teammates. Solomon went down to winter ball this year in Venezuela and touched 97 for the first time. And so that's huge for him, and he's getting ready to, head off to spring training now. But it's really, you never know who it's going to be on your team. It could be anybody from the best player on the team to the bullpen catcher, or the guy filling up water, little cups of water for the sitting on the water boy sitting on the end of the bench. Like, it could be anybody. And so I would just say, if you're a coach listening to this podcast, think about it as something that you probably haven't done as best as you can do to sort of show acceptance toward this community. And you might just get really great performance out of 3 or 4 guys that you hadn't, been able to really reach before.
And
And
for
that
me,
could
it's a
be the
golden
difference.
rule thing. Whether it's LGBTQ issues or your your heterosexual male players talking about females
Yeah,
or race relations, I think it all goes into this inclusion piece where the golden rule's a thing. Like treat people how you want to be treated. And
yeah,
sometimes I know it's difficult for some people to think about that sometimes, but it really does boil down to treating people the way that you would want to be treated and putting yourself in that person's shoes.
totally. Yeah, and the thing that always contrasts with LGBTQ, we're always put up against the religious group,
Yes.
like, and I know that's a huge population in baseball, but honestly, I haven't had issues, and I say this just because one, it is an awkward thing to talk about, but two, so I feel like it's almost necessary. Two, it just kind of to show how groups can coexist. Like I
Yes.
treat all my teammates with respect, and I expect the same.
Yes.
So when those guys who are doing Bible study like before batting practice,
Yep.
like when they talk to me as a teammate. They talk to me as the guy who's we're going to Chipotle after the game, like together. Like we're put up against each other in the media as these two groups, but really, man, like we're taking batting practice. We're in the training room. We're in the ice
I
bath.
tell
Like
people that all the time. I don't pay attention to the media. Like their
yeah,
job is to create divisiveness in
yeah,
America. Like
create
that's what their job is. Like to create clicks, create divisiveness. I'm like, hey, focus on like your 10-mile radius outside your house,
yeah,
and what's that telling you about human beings? And I think when you really focus on that way, it eliminates a lot of the BS and the noise that's out there in the media that people aren't supposed to like each other. If you have opposing views, like you're supposed to hate each other, like that's not an
yeah,
actual thing. When you get in rooms with people and have conversations, a lot of the places
yeah,
I hang out with, there's far right and far left at the places that I hang out with, and they exist with each other fine.
yeah. Like the thing I'm most proud of after all this, like coming out in USA Today and being all over the media and doing all these interviews and starting a charity and everything. Really, the thing I'm actually proud of is the fact that I've been able to stay in baseball,
Yeah.
like, and just to keep doing me and keep improving as a player and being the best version of myself that I can possibly be. And I'm really proud that I have not had an issue with any of my teammates. There's never been the locker room confrontation, and there never will be. I don't think. I mean, because I carry myself like a pro and treat my teammates with respect, and I expect the same. And I think that the guys understand that. Like, and I think that as I talk to these players, that's the other thing. And one thing, I'm talking to coaches, I'm talking to lots of straight people about this. You know, I'm also talking to that smaller population, but still significant population of gay people in baseball. Like, what do I do? These people are kind of ask me on a day to day basis. You should see some of the emails that are sent to our charity and the messages on social media. What do I do? And I say, man, you got to carry yourself like a pro. Like treat your like when you step foot in that locker room, hold your head high and be confident in who you are and be proud of who you are because it's going to be something that can help you be the best version of yourself. When you live your life off the field and you get to go on dates and you fall in love. And I've been with my partner for 3.5 years and we're great. I met his family. His family's awesome. Like they've met my family. It's like it works. It really works. And we're proud of that. And it's that you can gain so much confidence in yourself from living your life. And I don't think that people should like, the guys in the locker room, like my straight teammates, like they talk about girls all the time. Like they go on dates. Like, believe me, we hear I hear all kinds of things, and and the fact that I didn't let myself go on a date for 10 years, like that's really kind of puts a when you shove your personal life to the side, you just can't be the best version of yourself that you
And
can
that's really
possibly
what
be.
it boils down to is you're wanting to be the best version of yourself, and on
Yeah,
the field and off the field, like on the field and
yeah,
off the field, be the best version of yourself.
yeah. And my partner Max, like, he got to come sit with the other friends and family, in the section of the stadium when he came to our game for the first time. He could never see me play ever. Like, I would never let him come near the stadium just to kind of keep those worlds separate. He's met my teammates. We had in indie ball, we were getting close to the championship in 2021. Made it all the way to the championship game, the deciding game, and we like had champagne ready to pop. Like, I went to Target and got some of those goggles, and brought them to the clubhouse. Like, I'm ready for the party when we win, because we had been so locked down all season, like, focused and everything. And our second baseman Drew said to me in the clubhouse, turned to me and said, "Are you gonna be at the party if we win tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, of course. Look at my goggles. I'm ready." Like, and he said, "Well, I just want to let you know, if you're there, your boyfriend better be there too." And that was the moment of, because Drew is like you know, loves Jesus, loves country music, like, baseball player. He's wants to be a cop after he's done playing ball. Like, awesome, awesome dude. Um, like, if somebody like that can be accepting of somebody like me, that's that's great for the game of baseball. And what sucks is we didn't win that night. Tough loss. So the party never happened. But I almost didn't care. Like, at that point, it was just a sign of I had been accepted. Amongst my teammates, and I could just be me and play ball, and that was really the best feeling.
By the way, you've picked two of the hardest industries to make it, because baseball and the music industry. Every time, our convention's been in Nashville a million times, and when you brought that up, like for me, the whole creative process, you go up and down Broadway, there's going to be people that you will never hear of that are extremely talented. And I think the music industry and the baseball industry are very similar from how difficult it is to actually make a living in both of those industries.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been playing country music for a while now. I've always kind of been the guy who has my guitar on the road, on the bus, at the hotel. In college, I would play these open mics and coffee shops and bars, and we had a little band that we'd play gigs like on certain nights where we wouldn't have games and practices. And I moved to Nashville in the off season in 2019 after my first season overseas, and I've been writing songs for country music artists here in Nashville. So, um, lots of different guys from Texas country to more Nashville pop country, to there's even some pop singers who I'll write songs for, and um, even a folk singer who I'm working with. So,
How
my song,
gratifying is that, though, when you actually write a song and somebody takes it?
yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, I just had my 21st cut as a songwriter. I've written hundreds of songs, but 21 of them have been recorded by real life country music artists, which is what I dreamed about. Like, moving to Nashville, and we had one of them run up to number 13 on the iTunes country chart. So, man, I'm just kind of, between baseball and country music. I mean, yeah, they're two worlds that are kind of tough to make it in, period. But, like, you know, I kind of go at it with the baseball mentality. You can't get a hit every time you step up to the plate. And as long as you're just showing up every day and going to work, like, something good's going to happen. You just got to not quit. And we go, like you said, up and down Broadway in Nashville. I saw all the coaches there when during the convention at night. I'm one of those guys that's playing in those bars and, making, as you know, in indie ball, we don't really make a lot of money. So I need another job. So playing for tips, got the guitar case open, playing country music. And um, even today, like, I'm down here in Florida for spring training stuff. And I'm in Fort Myers right now, and opened up my guitar case and was playing for tips at a outlet mall yesterday for 3 hours. And today I'm singing the national anthem for the Atlanta Braves versus the Dominican Republic team in the World Baseball Classic tune-up game. And later today, and after that's over, I'm going to go back to the outlet mall and play for a couple hours, try and make some
They call it
money.
busking, right? That's what it's called,
Yeah.
right? Busking.
So I mean, yeah, it's hustling though. It's a lot of that, but that's my other job, and maybe one day there will be a proud to be in country music kind of charity, but right now we're got my hands full with one charity, balancing all this stuff. So
Telling your teammates and your coaches at Vassar, is that your one fail forward moment where you felt like, okay, this might sidetrack me because I might be out of baseball after this, but looking back now, maybe one of the
yeah,
best things that ever happened to you?
I think so. I think every time I've come out to someone, it has gotten easier. The first conversation is always the toughest. I came out to one of my friends at college. I told, um, I think that was, I was 21 at the time, and each conversation after that has gotten a little bit easier and it's taken a little bit of weight off my chest. And that was the moment though I felt like I was really in a pinch. Like, man, I'm about to be named captain. Like, I don't know if they're gonna want me as their captain if they know this. So I kind of am stuck here, and I kind of need to kind of just gotta tell them and rip the band-aid off. My college coaches, well, every time something happened in practice, he'd say, "Rip the band-aid off." That was his thing. So I had to rip the band-aid off and just say it, and life continued, and it was actually awesome. And
If I'm a coach, I take that as a compliment that a player of mine feels comfortable enough to come to me and talk to me about this. Like, as a coach, I'm taking this as a compliment. If
yeah,
I have a player that's comfortable enough to come talk to me about any life issue, anything that they're dealing with, that they're struggling with, I would take that as a compliment as a coach. That, okay, I'm my player feels comfortable enough to talk to me about this.
totally. And I think, in terms of who do you talk to, that's another thing. Um, if you're in a situation where you don't have somebody to talk to, contact our charity. That's exactly why we exist. Like, if you're listening to this and you're struggling through this as I was, contact Proud to Be in Baseball, because that's literally why we exist. Because I wanted to set this up to be able to do this. So, for people just like me in baseball, and having someone to talk to can make the world of difference. If you're a coach and you're thinking, well, I don't know if I should really say something about this, or um, like, I don't
And I have
know.
two friends. One played for me at Iowa. One coached with me at Iowa. He was in the Highland Park shooting. But then
Mhm.
Todd Blyleven was on the podcast with me. He was in the Vegas shooting. Those two
Yeah,
have gotten connected, and they're running a podcast called Walking Tall right now to help people through traumatic events. Like, and
yeah,
that was in a roundabout way. Baseball brought those two together because of my connection to both of them, and because I
crazy,
had talked to Todd, and then Chris went through it last summer. I was like, hey, you two need to get connected, because they were like, hey, we need to start this. So there's people out there that have been through traumatic events. They don't have anybody to talk to, and that's why the suicide rates are as high as they are right now. So though, just out of the baseball community itself, that was started because of the baseball community.
crazy. I mean, it's talk about, we all need, all of us as humans, we have a need for connection, and we got to at least have a friend group of people that are similar to us. And I got a whole huge friend group of people in baseball who are my teammates and ex teammates, and bunch of guys. I played a journeyman guy, played all a bunch of different places, but I never really had a friend group of people who are like me in baseball. And so now that I've kind of been able to form that with Proud to Be in Baseball, like, we empower each other, you know, and it really is a positive thing.
All right, what's some final thoughts before I let you go sing the national anthem here to kick off the World Baseball Classic, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's man, I don't know. I guess the last thing I would say, to the audience here
Well,
at
hey, I do want
ABC.
to. How did you decide to pull the trigger on reaching out to me? Because that's not the easiest thing in the world to reach out to me. I know you're coming to the convention, but how were you able to pull the trigger on reaching out to me?
I just thought, we have a board of directors at our charity and our board of directors is really just me and my friends. Like it's we want to be we are officially charity. We want to be a real bigger charity one day, but right now we're small, and we're talking about who is the group that needs to hear this message the most. Talking about me, and as a younger kid, younger me, like what could have helped me the most. And man, if I had received that messaging from the coaches that I had at an earlier age, and it didn't take till I was 21 and about to be named captain in college to kind of go broach this topic. Like if I had, that would have saved me years and years of struggling. So who is the group that can contact all those people and can influence all those people? Well, they all go to ABCA. Like that is our market. You know, that's why we decided to get a booth. Like that's why we decided to go, and it was great. That was in our backyard in Nashville this winter. Um, and that's kind of why I decided to pull the trigger on contacting y'all, and also saying something at the diversity presentation is just because this is I want this to be something that's not controversial, that can help other ball players like me, and something that can help baseball be better and be the best. Like I keep saying, help baseball be the best version of itself that it can be. To have different kinds of people in the game, we have seen the benefit of people said decades ago, a long time ago, people said black players can't play baseball. And now here we are in 2023, and many of the best players in the history of the game are black. You know, um, talking about one of the best players to ever pick up a ball, Hank Aaron, was someone who actually, you can look it up, um, said some very positive things in support of the LGBT community back in the 90s in Atlanta, when it wasn't necessarily the coolest thing to support the LGBT community. Talking about a hero, a real hero who stuck his nose out in support of my community, and someone who is a trailblazer in his own right, legendary, one of all time greats. And we see with Otani, and I mean not just Otani, but all kinds of players, Japanese players, and players from all around the world, and of all different races and ethnicities and backgrounds. LGBT people are just another group, and I dream of a world where maybe this is in 10 years or 25 years or 50 or 100 years. Well, one of the best baseball players ever, when I'm a senior citizen and kind of looking back on this, is going to be a gay guy who is out and proud and blazes the trail for more players like him, and inspires younger athletes to play baseball, to be proud to be in baseball. And I am somebody who's there at the very early stages of that, with Billy Bean and some Solomon Bates and some of these other people who are out in our sport, and helping to make that world possible for that next generation. And that's kind of why I came to ABCA, why I contacted y'all, why I'm trying to tell this story, and why I want to continue working with as many baseball teams in high school and college and in the pros, and with Major League Baseball as a whole, way into the future, to kind of build this world that we dream about.
Bryan, thanks for your time, and break a leg with the national anthem.
Thanks, man. Take it easy.